In the recent Tackle Warehouse Pro Circuit event on Sam Rayburn Reservoir, Drew Gill dominated the field by employing a unique strategy that had him fishing areas that the majority of the field completely ignored. After watching this tournament, I knew I had to try to replicate the strategy on one of my home lakes, and oh boy did it work. I ended up catching over a dozen fish in less than an hour and a half utilizing this strategy, and a new technique from Japan called Wacky shotting that you're not going to want to miss. Let's get into it. The idea behind Drew's strategy on Sam Rayburn was to target the most nondescript, boring-looking pockets that all of the other anglers were overlooking. These areas didn't have large groups of fish in them, but there were just enough fish that were setting up in that 5 to 10 foot of water range that hadn't moved up to spawn yet, but were kind of staging out there in the middle of these pockets. These fish were either individuals or grouped up into 2 to 3 fish, and they were receiving very little to no pressure from the other anglers on the lake. I wanted to try to replicate this strategy on one of the small lakes in my area that gets a lot of fishing pressure. The lake I chose had about 30 boats on the lake when I was there, and I basically pulled into a creek and found the one stretch of bank that was receiving zero fishing pressure, even though it's a pretty small lake. This bank looks pretty boring at first glance, though there is a creek channel out in front of it, and fish will move up to spawn on the flatter stretch closer to shore. There's a sweet spot, though, between that creek channel and that spawning bank, which is basically what Drew is targeting at Sam Rayburn. It's that no man's land zone in 5 to 15 feet of water. There's not a lot of structure or cover or anything out there for the bass to set up on, so I was interested to see if I would see anything on my side imaging. Almost immediately, I started to see several dots on my side imaging screen. Some of them were sitting by themselves, but there were a few that were grouped up in 2 to 3 dot clusters. Based on my experience graphing the side imaging, it looks like this group here is actually bass because the dots aren't that long, which would indicate that they are gar or carp, and they're also not stacked really close to each other or on top of each other, which would indicate they're panfish like bluegill or crappie. I wasn't 100% sure that these were bass, but I saw enough groups of these 2 to 3 dots together to make me think that there were some isolated wolf packs roaming around off this flat in that 5 to 12 foot of water range. Now on Sam Rayburn Reservoir, Drew Gill caught the majority of his fish on a Neko rig worm, or a nail-weighted worm. But I wanted to try a brand new hook that we just came out with at Core Tackle called the Wacky Shot rig. This rig takes inspiration from a fairly new technique in Japan called the shot wacky technique. It's basically a small hook with a ball of lead or tungsten that's poured on the shank of the hook. Because the hook gap is so small, anglers use very thin, long worms, and that weight distributed on the shank gives the bait a very unique fall. Unfortunately, the hook gap is too small to use your standard 5-inch stick baits like a Senko, so we modified the rig by adding a hitchhiker keeper that's embedded inside the ball of lead on the shank of the hook. You can then thread your worm onto this hitchhiker, and it won't interfere with the hook gap, increasing your hookup ratios, while still getting the unique fall of the Wacky Shot rig by having that ball of lead really close to the worm. We actually went through 4 or 5 different hitchhiker keepers while we were prototyping this rig to find one that would hold the bait on really well, so you don't have to worry about casting off your bait like you would with a standard Wacky rig as well. Now that we have the right area and the right bait, it's time to start putting fish in the boat.
Here's one, come on, come on. Eat it, eat it, eat it, eat it. Oh, he's all over it, eat it. Come on. Come on. He's on it. He's going to eat that thing. Come on. Come on. Let me do that thing. He is all over it. What is he doing? Let's drop it to the bottom. Let's see if he picks up off the bottom. Just turned his head towards it. Is he on it? Got him. Off the bottom. Yep. That's super typical, and that's why that Wacky rig is so useful. They don't do that super well with the Demiki, but they'll do it with the Wacky. They'll follow it, they'll follow it, they'll follow it, and all of a sudden, they'll just pick that thing up off the bottom. There we go. Another nice fish out here. Solid one. Just got him on that little Core Tackle Wacky rig. This is a little sneaky little deal, guys. It's very different. It's weighted in a way that allows it to sink down, and it keeps the worm on there in a very unique way. Sweet little rig, but dude, nice fish right there. Solid 2.5 pounder. Beauty, absolute beauty.
This next fish catch is pretty cool. There were some fish suspended in the top of this brush pile, and I figured out that I could basically shake that Wacky Shot rig in place because that weight would actually pull the bait backwards as I pulled it forwards. And you can suspend it right in front of those fish like you would suspending jerkbait, and they couldn't resist it.
One fish. Eat it. Eat it. Come on, you're right there. Eat it, eat it, get it. Got him. Another one, the same brush pile. They're just kind of out here swimming, guys. It's a good one. Finally got one to actually get it. Ooh, nice one. Get over here. Choked it that time. Ah. Nice fish right there. Beauty. Choked it that time. I don't know what those other fish. These conditions are kind of weird. We have like a north wind, calm skies. These fish just might not be super active today, but beautiful fish right there on that prototype Wacky hook right there. Absolute beauty right there. That's what I'm talking about. Awesome. So got this brush pile over here and just throwing that thing out there. This is this little Wacky hook. I'm just working it over the top of this brush. You can see this brush pile is loaded up with fish. I love throwing this Wacky hook because basically what I'm doing is I'm just twitching that thing real slow in place with my rod over the top of this brush. And these fish are just not used to seeing a Wacky rig fish like this. And the way we have this hook designed kind of allows you to get a lot of action out of that worm. Just kind of work it right in place, and largemouth love it. So let's just kind of keep rolling. Basically, these fish are going to be spawning down all these banks right out here in front of me. All these banks are spawning banks, and these fish are just kind of out. And you know, that was a brush pile we caught that fish out of. That's not anything crazy, but the fish that are a little bit more trickier, the ones that are just going to be out here on nothing, just on these flats, just roaming. And you can target these fish really well with this Wacky rig with the forward-facing sonar. There's some fish, like there's like a pair of two, there's another one right in front, and they're just on nothing. They're just out here. And I'm gonna try to cast on that pair of two. It's out in front of me here. There's another one. You can see they're just down this bank. And we saw some of these fish on the side scan. We saw some of these fish just kind of, as we were fishing around, or as we were graphing around. You're not gonna see every single one of these fish with your graph though, your traditional 2D sonar and stuff. You're gonna have to find some of them just by live scoping. Those fish just kind of swam away, but there's another one right here. You can see all these ones and twos, and all these fish, they're gonna get ready to spawn. And I don't know if those like groups of twos are like a male and a female pair, or if it's just random fish. I'm not 100% sure what's going on with that, but there are fish that are just out here, and you're gonna, you know, you're probably gonna get one out of every maybe 10 you cast on to actually commit. Like, it's not like you're gonna get every fish to commit. So I don't get too bent in the shape if I don't get one to bite. I just kind of move on. But you do want to get in an area where you can cast at a lot of fish then, because if 1 out of 10 bites, maybe 2 out of 10 bites, you need to stack the odds in your favor and put yourself in front of a lot of fish so you can make a lot of presentations, a lot of casts, stuff like that. The surface, like he's just right there, right underneath the surface. Twitch that thing by his head. You want to get it? Oh, eat it, fish. Oh, broke me off. No. Oh, that was a big one. Golly. Here's one right here. Eat it. Eat it. Eat it. Man, they're just swerving it. He's gonna follow that thing to the bottom though and eat it, isn't he? Get down to the bottom and pick that thing up. Got him. There we go. Man, those fish like to follow that thing down to the bottom. I got cobwebs all over me. I don't know what the deal is. Like half the fish, he's not a big one, but half the fish will like eat it right up off the top, and then the other half eat it right off the bottom. Super weird. Nice little fish though. Fun little fish. For sure. And that one freaking got it. I don't know what the deal is with the hookup today too. Like half the time they choke it, and then the other half the time they barely have it, so.
Really quick guys, if you want to pick up the new Wacky Shot rig, you can find it at coretackle.com. It comes in 2 different sizes, the 1/28 ounce size, which I was using in this video, and also a 1/8 ounce size if you want to fish a little bit deeper. You can also pick them up on tacklewarehouse.com, though the inventory is pretty low over there, but they should be getting more in later this week. Now let's put some more fish in the boat.
Come on, fish, eat it. Got him. Good one. Right there underneath the surface. And a giant, but nice one, just kind of swimming out the same little bank. Got back over to this. Ooh. Stay on there, fish. He's getting hot. There we go. Got that fish right there. Choked it. It's like half the fish choke it, and then the other half just barely getting it. I don't know what the deal is today. I think they're just a little bit nippy today, a little bit weird, but that's a beautiful fish right there. Super nice one on the Wacky hook. And man, just absolutely crushing that little bait. Following it down. Eat out the bottom, come on. Got him, good one. Off the bottom too. Followed that thing all the way down. Man, that's crazy. It's like half the fish are biting it off the top and the other half are biting off the bottom. This is a freaking good one. Followed that thing down like 20 feet, or 15 feet, I guess. Followed that thing down forever. It's a freaking good one right here. Oh, there we go. Beautiful fish. That is a nice one right there. Top of the mouth. Beauty right there. Look at that thing. Let's get a weight on that fish. Nice solid 3-pounder right there, pre-spawn. Absolutely gorgeous right there. Well guys, I'm gonna end the video on that nice fish catch. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this video and learned a little bit about how some of the pros are catching fish on these Wacky rig worms on these flat banks where the fish are just kind of randomly cruising around. It's a great technique that's put a lot of good fish in the boat for pros this year and has actually won one of the 2 major tournaments already this year. So definitely try this technique on your home lake. It should be good from now all the way through about May. So definitely check it out. Thanks for checking out this video guys, and we'll see you on the next one.